The afternoon sky darkened without warning, casting deep shadows across the cities of Earth. Giant alien ships, shaped like monstrous black spears, descended from the clouds, humming with a strange, threatening energy. They were not sleek and beautiful, like the ships from human dreams of space. They were brutal, jagged things, built for only one purpose: war. All across the globe, people froze in fear as the sky filled with these terrible vessels. News channels, emergency broadcasts, and online streams all repeated the same chilling truth: Earth was under invasion. The alien leader, a towering creature called Vorax, soon appeared on every screen. His thick, scaled skin gleamed like metal, and his 4 burning eyes looked down at humanity with disgust. Speaking in a deep, growling voice, he delivered a simple message: the era of humanity had ended. Their world would be taken, their cities crushed, their armies broken. He gave one cruel offer: kneel before their new masters, or be utterly destroyed. Across Earth, fear swept like a wave. Governments rushed to meet in hidden rooms, generals barked urgent orders, and soldiers armed themselves for a battle that felt hopeless. Scientists stared at the alien technology in horror, realizing it was centuries beyond anything Earth had created. In homes, people locked doors, gathered families, and prayed to gods they had not spoken to in years. In the streets, crowds formed under the looming shadows of the alien fleet, faces turned upward in terror and disbelief. Never before had humanity faced an enemy so powerful, so prepared for destruction. The sheer size of the invasion made it clear: this was not a visit or a negotiation. It was a conquest. Across the great cities, monuments and skyscrapers stood like tiny toys compared to the monstrous ships hanging above them. Humanity's greatest achievements suddenly seemed small and fragile. In the silence that followed Vorax's threat, the world held its breath. Everyone, from the highest leaders to the smallest children, understood one thing: Earth was standing at the edge of ruin. Yet deep inside that fear, somewhere beneath the panic, something else stirred in the hearts of the people. A stubborn spark that had burned since the beginning of their species. It was not surrender. It was not weakness. It was the ancient refusal to be conquered. Across Earth, that tiny spark began to grow, unseen but powerful. While the alien ships floated like gods above the cities, humanity, battered and frightened, began to prepare, not to kneel, but to resist. In every corner of the planet, in secret labs, underground bunkers, hidden military bases, and even in the minds of ordinary citizens, a single thought rose like a tide: fight. If this was to be the end, it would not be a quiet one. It would be a storm. The alien invaders had come for war, certain of an easy victory. What they did not know was that Earth had been watching the stars for a long time. And even though the planet was filled with millions of different voices, languages, and dreams, when true danger appeared, humanity had a way of coming together like no other species. As the dark ships hovered above them, and the skies rumbled, with alien energy, humanity prepared to show the invaders a lesson written in blood and history. A lesson Earth's enemies had often forgotten until it was too late. The human response was swift and clear, though the world still trembled under the shadows of the alien ships. Governments scrambled, but no one could deny the truth. There was no running, no hiding from the inevitable. Fear had gripped every corner of the Earth. Yet amid the panic, a single message was sent back to the invading alien fleet. It was simple, short, and defiant: no. There were no demands for peace, no pleas for mercy. The humans refused to bow before their would-be conquerors, even though the odds seemed impossible. Across the globe, in every city and country, whispers of defiance echoed. Some said it was foolish. Others believed it was the only choice. Leaders convened in underground shelters, their minds racing through desperate options. Military forces, already on high alert, prepared for a battle they never thought would come. Weapons were tested, defenses reinforced, and ships readied, though no one knew exactly how they could stand against the might of an entire fleet that had crossed the stars for the sole purpose of war. As the message echoed through the vastness of space, Vorax, the alien leader, seethed with fury. His enormous face twisted in rage as he bellowed at his crew to prepare for battle. He had expected fear, obedience, surrender, anything but the bold refusal of humans to bend the knee. He had seen countless worlds fall without resistance. Earth, he had believed, would be no different. He had underestimated one thing: humans had a way of surprising the universe, especially when cornered. As the alien leader gave the order for full assault, something remarkable began to happen on Earth. The very same governments that had once been divided over the direction of their future, the same military forces who had always struggled with their own rivalries, suddenly became united. There was no room for division when the planet itself was at stake. In laboratories and hidden bunkers, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, putting their years of research to the test. New weapons were deployed that had been kept secret for years. Developments made not just for space exploration, but for exactly this kind of scenario. Earth's military forces were ready, and their technologies, while still primitive compared to the alien fleet's vast armaments, began to show unexpected promise. The moment the alien ships fired their first massive, energy-charged blasts toward Earth, the planet's defenses activated with deadly precision. Plasma shields stretched across the skies, invisible to the naked eye, yet able to block and reflect even the most devastating of attacks. The first alien shot that struck New York was absorbed by this shield and redirected harmlessly back into the void of space. It was a small victory, but it sent ripples of hope throughout the world. Earth wasn't helpless after all. The second alien attack, this time aimed at Beijing, met a similar fate. A cloud of nanomachines, no larger than grains of sand, swarmed out from hidden bases in the mountains. They swarmed the alien weapon, chewing through its delicate circuits and reducing it to scrap in seconds. The invaders, who had expected Earth to surrender in the blink of an eye, were now facing an enemy that refused to back down. As alien ships continued to fire and retreat in confusion, humanity began to show its true strength. Not in numbers, not in size, but in a relentless will to survive. Leaders, scientists, and soldiers, all working together in ways that had never been seen before, began to turn the tide of war. As Earth's defenses absorbed attack after attack, the world began to breathe again, though the danger was far from over. The sky, once filled with the massive alien ships, was now filled with Earth's own defenders. Drone fighters, armed satellites, and missile systems that had once been used for peaceful exploration, but were now fighting for survival. Earth was not finished yet, and the alien invaders would soon learn what it meant to challenge humanity's resilience. The battle intensified as Earth's defenses proved more formidable than anyone had expected. The alien fleet, once confident in their overwhelming power, began to realize that their weapons, though powerful, were not enough to break through the relentless human counterattacks. The first few blasts that hit Earth cities were absorbed by the newly developed plasma shields, and the invaders' weapons began to fail under the surprise assault. But the aliens did not retreat. They responded with fury, launching wave after wave of destruction, determined to crush humanity's resistance. Vorax, watching from his command ship, howled in rage as his fleet's attacks were systematically neutralized. His soldiers, trained for countless battles across the galaxy, were thrown into disarray as their high-tech weaponry was either absorbed by Earth's shields or disabled by a relentless swarm of nanomachines. These tiny machines, once thought of as merely an experimental project, had become humanity's trump card. They attacked without mercy, disassembling alien technology at an astonishing rate. Entire ships, once thought to be invulnerable, were reduced to scrap within moments. the aliens attempted to retaliate, sending out their own mechanical drones and soldiers to deal with the Earth's defenses. But the humans had anticipated this move. Earth's drone swarms, designed to fight on land and in the sky, tore through the alien invaders with brutal efficiency. Each alien weapon was either dismantled or sent crashing into the ground. The alien fleet, so sure of its superiority just hours ago, was now faltering. Ships that once hovered menacingly above cities began to retreat, unable to withstand the relentless onslaught. But even as their powerful weapons failed and their fleet disintegrated, the aliens refused to surrender. The warlords within the fleet shouted orders, directing their forces to regroup and counterattack with even greater force. Yet, no matter how hard they fought, they couldn't break through the walls humanity had built. The alien commander, Vorax, could feel the power of the human resistance. For the first time in his long life, he felt uncertainty. The galaxy had always bowed to him, his army feared across countless worlds. Yet here, on Earth, humans, fragile, weak in comparison, were holding their ground. The more he fought, the more he realized that this was not just a battle between two species. It was a fight for survival, a struggle that would decide if the human race would continue or be wiped out. His forces were now overwhelmed, not by the sheer might of Earth's weapons, but by something far more dangerous, the human spirit. The aliens could not fathom this. They did not understand the resilience and willpower that drove humans to fight with such ferocity. Earth's soldiers did not need to be the strongest or the most technologically advanced. They only needed to hold on. And that was something the alien invaders could not defeat. As the days passed and the battle dragged on, Vorax began to feel a deep and painful realization. His forces were being pushed back, cornered by an enemy they had underestimated. The idea that humans might win was now impossible to ignore. The once mighty alien ships, designed for war, now floundered helplessly, retreating further into the vastness of space. The alien fleet, having failed to break through the defenses, was losing the war. Earth was not giving up. Every single human on the planet, whether soldier, scientist, or civilian, stood together, facing the impossible. And now, as the first alien ships began to fall from the sky, Earth stood victorious, not because of the power of their weapons, but because they had found a way to fight back in a way the invaders never expected. The invaders were on the run, and the humans had not only survived, they were winning. But the war was far from over. The retreating alien fleet was only the beginning of the end, and Vorax's pride would not let him go down without one last, desperate attempt to reclaim victory. Yet, for the first time in this war, the question lingered in his mind. Could they win this fight? Could they truly overcome humanity's indomitable will? The alien fleet, once a terrifying force that filled the sky with its immense presence, now began to break apart under the relentless push from Earth's forces. The skies, which had been darkened by the looming shadows of alien ships, were now filled with the wreckage of those very invaders. The alien fleet, which had entered Earth's atmosphere with the confidence of gods, was now crumbling, retreating into the vastness of space, battered and broken. Yet, despite the overwhelming defeat they were suffering, Vorax, the alien leader, was far from ready to admit defeat. His pride, forged through countless conquests across the galaxy, would not allow him to accept that a species so primitive could defeat his mighty forces. His mind raced with thoughts of vengeance, planning his next move as his remaining ships retreated into the cold depths of space. But Earth was not yet safe. The battle had taken a new turn. With their victory in sight, the humans could not afford to relax. The alien commander had ordered a final, devastating counterattack. A desperate strike designed to leave Earth in ruins, even if it meant the loss of his remaining fleet. This final assault would come in the form of a massive energy bomb, capable of obliterating entire continents. The bomb had been built into the core of the largest alien ship, an unthinkable weapon that could end everything humanity had fought for. As the bomb's countdown began, the remaining alien ships sped toward the planet, leaving behind their crippled fleet in their wake. It was a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever faced, and the entire world knew that the battle was far from over. Earth's military forces, still recovering from the intense fight, were quick to respond. No longer were they just defending their cities from the alien ships. They were racing against time, preparing for the possibility of the most devastating attack yet. The world held its breath. Across the globe, as reports flooded in about the incoming alien weapon, every nation scrambled to coordinate a defense. Scientists and military strategists worked together in a frenzy, pushing humanity's technology to its absolute limit. They had already taken down most of the invaders' ships, but this was different. If the bomb detonated, Earth would be wiped out. With time running out, Earth's best engineers and pilots worked in unison to create a desperate plan. It was a last-ditch effort, one that would require every ounce of bravery the humans could muster. A small fleet of Earth's warships, outfitted with new weaponry, would launch a final attack against the alien mothership carrying the bomb. They would fight their way through the alien defenses, a nearly impossible task to reach the heart of the enemy's forces. Among the ships was a young pilot named Alex, who had only recently graduated from the military academy. Despite his youth and lack of experience, he volunteered for the mission, knowing this was the only chance to stop the bomb. Alex's heart raced as he climbed into his ship, joining the other pilots who had been selected for this final strike. There was no fear now, only determination. The flight into the heart of the alien fleet was a whirlwind of destruction. The young pilots, their ships flashing with brilliant energy, cut through the chaos of battle, dodging blasts from alien weapons that could erase entire cities. Every shot, every maneuver, could be the difference between life and death. As they closed in on the massive alien mothership, Alex's eyes locked on the target. One last strike that would decide the fate of the planet. With every passing second, the countdown of the alien bomb drew nearer. The pressure was unbearable, but Alex and the other pilots held their focus. It was a race against time, and there was no room for mistakes. In those final moments, as the alien mothership loomed large in front of them, the pilots launched their attack with everything they had left. The bomb was almost at the point of activation when the human fleet closed in, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that shattered the alien ship's defenses. The explosion from the alien mothership was deafening, but it was the sound of victory. The sound of humanity's resilience overcoming the final, desperate move of their alien invaders. The bomb, disarmed in the last possible moment, had failed. Earth was safe. In the wake of the final battle, Earth stood in a state of stunned disbelief. The alien threat that had once seemed unstoppable was now shattered, its mighty fleet broken and defeated. The last desperate assault had failed, the bomb that could have wiped out the planet rendered useless in the final moments. Humanity, having faced extinction just days before, now found itself victorious. The skies, once filled with the shadow of the alien ships, were now clear, and the distant stars no longer seemed so cold and distant. Yet, despite the overwhelming triumph, the world was not quick to forget the cost of this victory. The cities, once bustling with life, had been scarred by the battle. The streets were littered with the remnants of war, buildings reduced to rubble, and the air heavy with the smell of smoke and destruction. The loss of life had been devastating, with millions of people caught in the chaos of the invasion. The VAR. Damage was immense, but it was not without hope. The resilience of humanity had been proven in the most extraordinary way. As the world began to rebuild, the memory of the alien assault and the near-apocalyptic battle against their invaders began to settle in. Leaders and scientists from every nation gathered to discuss the future. The technology they had developed in such desperation was now the key to Earth's future. Weapons that had once been reserved for science fiction had been tested, and humanity had learned that it was capable of defending itself against the most powerful forces in the galaxy. The questions, however, were many. Why had the aliens come to Earth in the first place? What had driven them to invade a planet so seemingly insignificant in the vastness of the universe? The answers remained elusive. Though the alien fleet had been defeated, the truth behind their motives was still a mystery. The humans had sent them home in tears, but had they truly learned everything there was to know about these invaders? The investigation into the alien technology and the remains of the destroyed ships began immediately. Scientists worked tirelessly to understand the advanced weapons, ships, and even the biology of the alien race. Earth had no choice but to learn as much as it could, for the possibility of another invasion was not something they could ignore. Amid this flurry of activity, one thing became abundantly clear. Earth had been changed forever. The people who had once looked up at the stars in awe now did so with a new sense of purpose. They knew their place in the universe had shifted. No longer would they stand by as passive observers. They had the strength, the technology, and the will to fight back. The leaders of Earth, once divided and uncertain, now stood united, determined to prepare for whatever lay ahead. The alien race, having encountered humanity's unbreakable spirit, had learned a valuable lesson. Earth would never surrender, no matter the odds. With the threat gone and their victory secured, the world looked to the future, wary but hopeful. The loss was still fresh, the scars of the war still visible on the planet's surface. But the survivors now knew that humanity could face the darkest of challenges and emerge victorious. The alien ships that once threatened to wipe out the human race had retreated, but humanity had not just survived. They had proven their place in the cosmos. And as Earth began its slow but steady recovery, the leaders knew one thing for certain. The universe had just learned to fear the will of humankind. Earth had not just sent the aliens home in tears. They had sent a message that would echo across the stars for generations to come. As the dust settled from the great battle, Earth began to heal, both physically and mentally. The scars left by the alien invasion were deep, but humanity's resilience was even deeper. In the months that followed, the world came together in ways previously unimaginable. Nations that had once been divided now worked as one, their shared victory over the alien invaders acting as the glue that held them together. Cities were rebuilt, and communities, though grieving the loss of so many, found solace in the knowledge that the fight for survival had been won. People from all walks of life, from soldiers to scientists, from the elderly to the children who had never known a world without the looming threat of invasion, came together in a collective effort to rebuild. However, Earth's victory had not come without its costs. The loss of life, though not as catastrophic as it could have been, had still been staggering. Entire neighborhoods had been wiped out in the initial alien assault, and countless families had been torn apart. The physical damage to the planet was immense. Entire ecosystems had been disrupted, the climate altered, and many of the Earth's natural resources drained by the invasion. Yet, amid this destruction, the human spirit proved to be unbreakable. The fight against the invaders had sparked an unprecedented wave of innovation. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists now shared their knowledge freely, working around the clock to not only repair the damage done, but to prepare for any future threats. Earth's governments, having united under the shared goal of survival, began to establish new laws and systems of governance that would ensure the planet was better prepared for any future conflict. One of the most important steps taken was the creation of the Global Defense Council, a unified organization tasked with the protection of Earth and the development of new technologies. This council worked closely with the now enhanced military forces, training soldiers in new tactics and strategies that would allow them to defend the planet should another invasion occur. But even as humanity strengthened its defenses, the question of what lay beyond the stars lingered in the minds of many. The alien invasion had been a shocking reminder that Earth was not alone in the universe. What other races might be out there, and what were their intentions? Were there other civilizations just waiting for the right moment to strike? The sense of urgency that had followed the invasion was palpable. The scientists and diplomats who had worked together to defeat the alien force now turned their attention to the cosmos. Humanity needed to prepare for the possibility that this war was only the beginning of something far bigger. As the weeks passed, the alien ships that had once terrorized Earth were dismantled, their technology studied for its secrets. The knowledge gleaned from these advanced weapons would prove invaluable. With it, Earth's scientists were able to accelerate their space exploration programs, pushing humanity's reach into the stars at a pace never before imagined. Earth's place in the galaxy had forever changed. The once tiny planet, nestled in a forgotten corner of the universe, had proven that it could defend itself against a power much greater than it had ever expected. This victory, however, was not one of arrogance, but of caution and humility. Earth's leaders knew that the galaxy was vast, and there were threats beyond the ones they had already faced. But they also knew that they had earned their place in the stars, and they would not allow anyone to take that away from them. As the years went by, the story of the alien invasion became a tale passed down through generations. It was a story of survival, unity, and triumph. It was a story of a species that had been underestimated by a more powerful foe, and had proven that no matter how great the odds, the human spirit could not be crushed. The invaders, those who had come to conquer, had been sent home in tears. And in the end, humanity had emerged stronger, not just as survivors, but as a force to be reckoned with in the vastness of the universe. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson that day. Never underestimate Earth, for it had the power to stand against any enemy and emerge victorious.